Isabel, do you feel good about Wow if True endorsing Kamala Harris? Welcome to Wow if True, the podcast of your wildest memes.
We're here to dissect the entire internet, something normal to want and possible to achieve. I'm a science fiction author, not your attorney, and 17 pages from finishing my book draft, Isabel J.
And I'm Amanda Silberling, an internet culture reporter and Chappell apologist. Anyone could be famous on the internet, so why not us?
I should have said that I was a manly indulgence candle appreciator so that we could have segued into that.
Well, so here's the deal. We are doing a Chappell Roan episode. However, breaking news. Before we started recording, I said to Isabel, what should I get my brother for his birthday? Because he's, difficult to shop for, I don't know. But he likes candles. And then I was telling Isabel that I saw, black candles that are marketed as men candles. And then we Googled candles for men and discovered a website called manlyindulgence.com.
Hold on, I need to send you a screenshot immediately. Breaking news. This is what their pop-up for the take an additional 10% off your first order looks like. I'm going to just send this to you, and then I'm going to describe it for our listeners, because holy shit.
Oh my god. Wait, they have an Ivy League candle.
You should get him that. Anyway, okay, so the Manly Indulgence, established 2013, take an additional 10% off your first order thing, has a eagle with an American flag bursting out of a background of sparks, and at the top of it says
gold glitter.
There's so much gold glitter, and it says duty, honor, country, America's original masculine candle brand, forged in America.
Oh god. Okay, this is the fundamental issue in American society, is men should be able to enjoy lavender scents.
Yeah, this is really what's missing from masculinity in America, the ability to enjoy lavender. I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of not. Yeah.
No, yeah, I'm not joking. Oh no, I just remembered that I got him a candle as part of his Hanukkah gift. So
I think you can get him perhaps a Ivy League candle, perhaps a Weekend Warrior candle.
See, this is really an issue because I was just planning to bring pottery to him next time I'm home, because I have so much excess pottery. I simply have so much pottery. I just keep making stuff, and that's what happens when you do pottery.
Oh, you can get a Golf Greens candle.
Golf
you can get
Greens.
One that's 5 o'clock shadow. You can get one that says Bachelor Pad.
Okay, the thing is that, on Amazon, there are just candles that they're little black glass containers, and I think that's fine.
No, you need to get him a man candle. I'm investing in this now. You can get an adventure candle.
Should I get him this candle that the scent is called Sexy Man?
That's a lot, but you should. What does Sexy Man smell like?
Let's find out. Alright, I'm gonna just read the reviews. I purchased the 9-ounce Sexy Man candle. This is a beautiful, simple candle, and it's definitely slow burning, which is nice. It has a pleasing scent, but the scent wasn't strong enough. I thought it would smell like a man with cologne, but it doesn't. The smell is still really nice, though.
Hold on. Okay, now we're gonna look up a second thing here, which is candles that smell like men.
We're doing great. This is the best Chappell Roan podcast that anyone's ever made.
No, it's fine. We're balancing the queer shit with the extremely heterosexual shit so that we are in balance perfectly. I forget the Thanos quote. Thanos, I can talk. I'm definitely not sleepy.
Nothing's more heterosexual than a candle called Sexy Man.
You can get a candle called Sexy Beast.
Oh, hell yeah, let's go.
It's from a small business, too.
Oh, beautiful. I love to support a small business as I scroll on Amazon.
Okay, so somebody a year ago said that there was no scent, but that is probably because they have COVID, because the next one says that the Beast smells like my dream man. Thank you so much. Also shipped so fast.
Cool.
There's also a brand called Boy Smells.
That's so weird. Oh man, I feel like people are gonna use that for some shit.
No, that one's an ironic one. I've looked them up before, and I thought about buying a candle from them because they were called Boy Smells.
Didn't we uncover in the podcast before that you secretly, have opinions about perfume?
I do, and my opinions are mostly bad, though, because I really like the Airlock perfume. The airlock perfume that I got from a Tumblr description, which convinced me to buy it because I was sad. It's called Ganymede, and it actually smells really good, but it does make you smell like you're from space.
Right.
Which I want. I don't know that anyone else in the world wants it.
Can't believe that... Wait, there's a man cave one. But I was going to say, can't believe that when I made fun of the crypto perfume for women, and then they said they were going to send it to me, that after I published my article making fun of them, they didn't actually send it to me. So I still don't know what crypto smells like.
That's so fucked of them.
I know.
Okay, you can get a banana pudding from Boy Smells, so I think that's also a pretty strong contender for things to send to your brother.
Okay, I need to know what man cave smells like. Where are the ingredients on these things? Masculine Aromas collection. Let's go.
Oh, wait, what are the other masculine aromas?
That's a great question, but I'm still trying to figure out, what does this smell like? Sandalwood and musk. Maybe I'll send him a Dylan Panthers shirt.
Wait, how did we get there from candles?
I don't know. He likes Friday Night Lights a lot. I don't know what to tell you.
You're so valid. I'm still gunning for the Weekend Warrior candle, or perhaps... I do think Ivy League would be funny from specifically you. Because...
You're like, hey, sorry you got rejected from the schools you applied to like 15 years ago, Michael.
I just think that would be kind of funny, but maybe that would be kind of mean.
I don't want to order from that brand. I don't want to give manlyindulgence.com money.
We have to move on.
We have to move on. Okay, so I know we've both been watching Chappell Roan's ascent to fame pretty closely, and we have mentioned our thoughts in passing on the podcast before, but I think it's time that we really dig into what is going on with her and why it matters and how we can think about this moment in the context of, like, the more broad relationship between celebrities and American politics, which is, that's a broad relationship.
Before we do that, we do need to talk about if Chappell Roan released a scent, what it would smell like to bridge the gap between candle talk and Chappell talk.
What do drag queens smell like?
Probably makeup and hairspray.
Yeah, that's the scent.
I feel like it's like hairspray and like confetti cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So
now that we've established that.
Now we are in the liminal space of, do I assume that Chappell Roan is common knowledge? And we know that my mom listens to the podcast, which is my personal litmus test for, do I need to explain what this is or not? And I don't know if my mom knows who Chappell Roan is, so I'm just gonna give you the brief rundown. Chappell Roan is the stage name of Kaylee Rose Amstutz, who is a 26-year-old musician from the middle of nowhere, Missouri, with a very Christian upbringing. She started uploading songs to YouTube when she was a teenager, and Atlantic Records was like, oh hey, she good. And they signed her when she was 17. She, like, finished high school quickly, was like, oh god, like, time to be a musician. She did pretty well. She was touring with artists like Vance Joy and Declan McKenna, and when she was 20, she moved to LA, which she says is the first time she could live as an openly queer woman. But then a few years later, in 2020, her label dropped her, partially because of the pandemic, partially they were just like, you're not doing it, like, come on. The same week, her boyfriend of 4 years broke up with her, and then she moved home back to middle of nowhere, Missouri, and she worked at a drive-thru after having had this record deal in LA. For most people, this would be the end, not Chappell.
That would be fucking crushing.
Oh, yeah.
This is very similar to how I fear if I fail at the writing thing, I have to go become a lawyer. These are definitely the same things.
No, I feel you. We're there. So, fast forward a few years, Chappell Roan is like, you know what, one last time, gonna go to LA. She worked with Olivia Rodrigo's producer, Dan Nigro, and released her debut album in 2023. And at first it was, like, well-received. Like, people listened to it, but it wasn't, like, household name Chappell Roan. And within the span of a few months, she had a Tiny Desk concert that blew up. She had an incredible Coachella set. She opened for Olivia Rodrigo on her tour for a while. And she released a single called Good Luck Babe, which blew up. And now she is probably one of the, like, biggest pop stars currently in the game. And so basically after 10 years of struggling, she seems to have become an overnight success, but there is actually 10 years of struggle behind the overnight success part of it.
Yeah, honestly, like, it's crazy how her rise this year has gone. Like, I feel like I, like, started noticing her around, like, the Tiny Desk era, where I was like, wait a minute, that whole aesthetic fucks, this music fucks. Oh, she's, like, a queer musician who is probably going to be, like, queer famous, but not, like, real famous. And then she, like, blew up, and I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah. This also reminds me of yesterday. I was in Pilates, and the teacher was playing a playlist that was a bunch of Chappell Roan, and then the next song was Boy Genius, and I started laughing, and she was like, are you laughing at my gay playlist? And I was like, kinda.
That's homophobic, Amanda.
I know. It was just like, of course, it's like Chappell Roan, and then it goes into like Emily, I'm Sorry, and I'm like, damn, what are we doing here?
It's gay Pilates, Amanda. You're at
It's
gay
gay
Pilates. I would love to go to gay Pilates.
I enjoyed the, like I was laughing at the playlist because I'm like, I listen to this music also. Like, I am also often listening to Chappell Roan and Boy Genius, but it was just like, damn, you're going through it, man.
Is the Pilates instructor okay?
Probably.
Okay.
I think they just like Chappell Roan. That's fine.
Don't we all, honestly? I mean,
yes.
I think what's, like, interesting, though, about, like, people's, like, immediate rise to success after being catapulted. Do you know what I mean? Like she's been working for 10 years, and then she suddenly seems to have found fame. But I think what happens in a lot of these cases, and I'm really just basing this on my own experience of, like, toiling in the writing mines for a long time, and then suddenly being handed, hello, here's the book deal.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what happens, I think, is that within the bubble of the industry, you start making those connections and you start doing the work and people start noticing who you are before you break out into the mainstream. But the fact that you have those connections within the industry, or like there have been enough tendrils where basically like once you hit the match, then everything like lights up.
Yeah. I think
to
it's
mix like 4 metaphors.
Getting a big break is partially luck, but it's also that you have a better chance of having that moment of luck the more you work at it.
Yeah, it's like basically the more things you put out there, the more chances you have at a big break, and the more chances that you have like at your big break to have other people be positioned to help you with the big break, or to like make your break bigger. Because like at least with mine, for example, like should I talk about mine? Is that like interesting? Is that parasocially entertaining?
I feel like most of the people that listen to the podcast are like the Isabel J. Kim short fiction fan club. So shout out to those guys. I love it.
Unironically, I love those guys, and I do go look at the threads sometimes on Reddit, and then I feel weird about it, and I don't quite know how to interact with them because I'm like a person who's awkward.
I feel like it's most fun for me because for you it's a little bit like, should I be here? Like, these people are critically discussing my work and I don't want to intrude in a way that makes them like less likely to think more like critically and whatever. And then for me, I'm just like, hell yeah, they're talking about my boy.
Hell yeah, they're talking about my boy right there. Let's get some popcorn.
That's my boy.
I like them all as people, and I would interact, but then I feel weird about it. But then I think they feel weird about interacting with me. So it's like a two-way weirdness situation, just like from who I've talked to about this.
I feel like you have to interact sparingly. Like, you have to come in when you can make, like, the funniest comment randomly.
Exactly. This is the move. For me, there was like 5 or 6 years, I think, in the back end of I was not getting published. Then I started getting published. Then I started getting published and like being noticed within like science fiction, like small fandom. Oh, she'll end up on like review lists. Oh, she's getting like nominated for stuff. I was not making any money from this, really. And it was not a significant portion of my life other than the fact that I like loved it. Mm-hmm. And then that all led to me getting an agent and stuff, and nothing really happened with my first book for like a long time. But because of all of this being in place, when I got the opportunity for the big book deal and like the TV stuff, it was very much poised so I could like strike while the iron is hot. And now it's basically like, oh yeah, Isabel has a lot of fiction that can be optioned for television and film, and she's down for it. And she had this huge book deal. Hey, look at her stuff. She might be somebody.
I think you're somebody.
Oh, thank you, Amanda.
You know who else is somebody? Is Chappell Roan.
Chappell Roan is more of a somebody than me.
Yeah, but you're funnier.
Fuck yeah. My post's better.
She's a good poster, too. Except sometimes they get her into trouble, as we see here. So I think something that we notice on social media a lot is, like, when people get too famous I think there's just some disease in us that when someone is rising too much, we want to take them down. Mm-hmm. And that's not really fair, but as Chappell got, like, super famous seemingly overnight, she made a video where she talked about how people were treating her sort of like a zoo animal. Like, she said somebody, like, kissed her without permission. People were, like, touching her and stuff. And then if people ask to take a picture with her, like, sometimes she'll say yes, and sometimes she doesn't want to. And if she doesn't want to, like, people were getting mad and sort of feeling like she, like, owed it to them. People, like, stalked her parents. And she made a video being like, I need you to treat me like a normal person. And people got weirdly mad about it.
No, but I get that. I get that from the fan side. So she fucked up on a communication thing here. And, like, okay, this leads to my larger thought that I think that Chappell needs to fire her PR team and get a new PR team, because she clearly has, like, brand management shit for a much smaller artist and not the artist of the size that she is now, because she's made some, like, pretty big fumbles, I think. Yeah. Not even on the talking about politics stuff, but on her messaging about canceling shows or, like, stuff like that, which is, like, again, she can do whatever she wants with her career, but to a large extent, her career hinges on the fact that people like her.
Yeah.
And the other thing here is that, like, if you tell people to stop being weird, the majority of people are normal, and they will take it as, like, oh my god, my normal actions were weird. She's being mean to me. And anyone who's being a freak they're a freak. They're not going to respond to that messaging.
Yeah.
You're just not hitting the right audience, and you're making people who like you alienated to you. And unfortunately, that is how people react to this sort of stuff, because it feels like a soft criticism from an artist you like, and then it's like, wow, I'm just trying to support you. And the people who are being a freak are like, this can't be me. I'm normal. This is because there's something wrong with them.
Yeah. I don't know, like, John Green, my boy, has been talking about this because, like, he's dealt with some of the similar, like, getting famous really quickly and then people are weird to you and it, like, fucks with your mental health kind of thing. And, like, obviously this is not what Chappell says, but what John said was, like, if somebody comes up to me in public and they, like, genuinely like my work and are, like, someone who has genuinely, like, engaged with my work, then he is happy to talk to them. But then sometimes people see him and they're just like, oh, that's that famous guy. And then when those people go up to you, it's like you're like an object. And, like, they just want to talk to you so that they can tell their friends that they met a famous person. Whereas, like, if it's, like, someone that really appreciates what you do, they're probably going to be, like, more normal about talking to you and be like, hey, I really like your books. Have a good day, man.
You know, one thing I think that he didn't touch upon, though, specifically with authors, is that what happens a lot with authors is people want to talk to you about getting published and how to do that. Like, yeah, I'm sort of surprised he didn't talk about it, but I guess he's reached a level of fame where it's like that doesn't happen to him anymore. But, like, people will talk to you about your book idea and how they want to write a book someday. Yeah. Okay, things people have done to me. Honestly, most people have been, like, normal. I did get a guy who wanted to go surfing with me at, like, Rockaway. And also, like, I was at a con and this girl... By the way, the girl was perfectly lovely. I just didn't know how to get out of this interaction because I was with my friend and we were kind of just hanging out and I was not in, like, the headspace to talk to a stranger who wanted to talk about a little bit about my stuff, but mostly about how do you get started in writing. Where I was like, dog, I'm at a con and I'm also, like, kind of, like, socially fried and I can't deal with this. So I have some sympathy for Chappell here.
Yeah, I think, like, there are some times when I'm walking around my neighborhood and I'm like, I hope I don't run into somebody that I know just because I'm exhausted and just don't really want to have, like, a small talk some situation. But when you're famous, it's like anybody can be someone that knows you. Mm-hmm. I don't get it to the same degree that you do, but, like, I often will get people that I know in the past, like, people that I was, like, friends with in college but don't really talk to, like, reaching out to me, and then after a few messages they're like, so how would I get on TechCrunch? And I'm like, I don't know, like, are you doing something that's newsworthy?
People get weird when they think you have access to stuff that they hopefully want that they don't really know how else to get. And, like, I'm saying this as somebody who's done networking both to get into things and also has had networking happen to them. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the way that I handle it is, at this point, very much what I'm doing is I'm like, okay, so I have, like, a couple of publicly available resources online, or I will point you to things that you should be doing. but I'm not going to give you specific concrete advice unless we're like friends in a different context. Because I just don't have time to tell everybody how to do everything. But if you're like friends with me and like we have that sort of relationship where that is like reciprocal, then it's like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, like when I write a book eventually, I'm gonna be like in your DMs like, so I'm just gonna be really annoying to you.
That's fine.
I think the overall point here in terms of like fan interaction with celebrity or like person who you look up to and don't know personally is just like, be normal. Like, as we said before, like the bad fan interaction is the exception, not the norm. But one or two bad experiences can be traumatic. Like someone kissing Chappell without her permission is scary and bad.
Again, she needs better security, better management. And like, if you think about the scale of people in her DMs, broadly speaking, that she's having this year compared to every other year of her life.
Yeah.
I don't blame her for navigating this in a way that's kind of dumb in a couple of places. I think the mistake she's making... Okay, so I know that we want to talk about her in politics, but I do want to mention, like, her canceling shows and then giving apologies that kind of sucked.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it, too, because I think maybe part of why the politics thing blew up was because she had these other, like, minor flubs.
Well, the thing is, I don't even think these are minor flubs. So, like, she canceled a couple of Europe shows very last minute to go perform at the VMAs. Also, her VMA performance was amazing. I feel like that's totally fine to do, but the fact that she knew that she was going to do this, canceled last minute as opposed to earlier on to tell fans, like, hey, sorry, I'm not going to make it because of XYZ. Mm-hmm. And her apologies for this and the other show that she didn't go to, that she was, like, headlining, that she canceled because of her mental health. Again, valid to do that, but the way that she communicated everything last minute and the way that her apologies were worded felt very much like the way that your favorite indie artist would tell you, sorry, I can't do this show that costs like $20 or something, as opposed to, I was the headliner of this thing. Everybody like changed their plans to go to this thing. I'm not going to be there for my mental health because, you know, and then that caused a discourse of like, well, she's a pop star and she doesn't want to do her job and so she can not do that, but I work at a McDonald's and I have to just fucking clock in. So then it creates like sort of a wall. Like that was like some of the discourse I saw on TikTok where it was like very much like by her trying to be friendly and trying to like give apologies that were very much worded in like Gen Z like cadence, it comes across as tone deaf now. And I think it's that she doesn't realize that this is a difference. And then the pushback from that probably is making her feel like she needs to over-explain herself in other places. And girl, you need to stop posting. That's the secret here. You stop posting.
I do think that my favorite take about Chappell Roan dropping out of that festival was that when celebrities, like, can't go to their job, they should have to, like, get coverage like you do at a normal job.
Oh, that's
like,
good.
Hey, Lord, I can't make it to the festival today. Can you fill in for me? Hey, Kesha, what's up? Can you do me a solid? I'll cover your shift if you cover mine.
I think that would be really funny, and also in the context of, like, yeah, if you go to see a show, you might get a different artist. It'll be an artist of the same caliber of fame, but it may not be the guy you signed up for.
Yeah, like, I feel like people that traveled to see Chappell Roan, if, like, Lorde showed up instead, they'd be like, okay, I guess. Like, it's not great, but...
The vibe would be different. But, like, I'm not mad about it.
Yes, but I think we need to explain the whole political situation that preceded the cancellation of that festival, which this is the big whammy of thing that people got really mad about. Mm-hmm. So Chappell has been very outspoken about being pro-Palestine and rejecting the US's continuous funneling of money into Israeli weapons, which obviously there's a lot of nuance there, but I think it's reasonable to question where hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars are going and whether that money is being used for defense or to enact unnecessary violence. And in a Rolling Stone feature, Chappell said that she got invited to perform at the White House for a Pride event, and she wanted to go there and read poems by a Palestinian woman as a form of protest instead of performing, but her team told her it's not worth stirring the pot, and it could be a threat to her safety to, like, fuck with the White House, which, yeah. And given that she had already been worried about her safety, I think it makes sense that She said she didn't want to go to the White House and be their pride monkey, and if you don't feel good about going to the White House, don't go to the White House. The writer of the feature, Brittany Spanos, asked Chappell about her political views, like, in context of that, and part of the quote got taken and posted on, like, Pop Flop or something like that, like one of those stupid Twitter accounts. But the whole quote is, I saw a couple of TikToks where they were like, so she's pro-Trump? Rowan's face contorts into disgust. It is not so black and white that you hate one and you like the other. No matter how you say it, people are still going to be pissed for fucking some reason. I'm not going to go to the White House because I am not going to be a monkey for pride, and thank God I didn't go because they just made a huge statement about trans kids a couple weeks ago. This was referring to a policy about limiting gender-affirming care that later they reversed. And then she goes on to say, I'm pretty fuck the government and fuck everything that's going on right now, she says, middle fingers in the air. I don't have a side because I hate both sides. I'm so embarrassed about everything going on right now. That's the quote that got taken out of context, but we continue. Right now, it's more important than ever to use your vote, and I will do whatever it takes to protect people's civil rights, especially the LGBTQ plus community, she tells me in August. My ethics and values will always align with that, and that hasn't changed, with a different nominee. I feel lucky to be alive during an incredibly historical time period when a woman of color is a presidential nominee. And what's weird to me for this, and what exposes that we really are all in our own internet echo chambers, is like, I read that Rolling Stone article, and I was like, yeah, that kind of sounds like the viewpoint of most of my friends. Like, for me, the issue is more so, like, convincing people that voting for Kamala is actually helpful, and, like...
Oh my god, people are...
Yeah. I think a lot of people in our generation are, like, tired of voting defensively against Trump, and that's understandable, but it's my personal belief that you should just fucking do it.
Listen, as a listener of this podcast, you should vote for Kamala to make Elon Musk mad.
Yeah, that's... Oh, man, we're so good at political campaigns.
We're so good at politics. We've solved it. We've solved politics.
Yeah, and I mean, as early WoW true heads would know, I used to work as a political organizer, like, being the annoying person that's like, are you registered to vote?
Did you use that voice?
Oh, yeah, all the time. No. Oh, man, especially if you win in a swing state. Just, I know it sucks. Just do it. Anyway, people got mad, and she was getting, like, a lot of attacks and stuff about, like, oh, she's pro-Trump because she's a both-sidesing. And then she made TikToks, which, to your point, I don't think these TikToks were articulated well. I think she didn't sound very knowledgeable in how she explained this. She pronounced Kamala's name wrong. But she was basically like, I don't agree with everything the government does, so I don't want to make a formal endorsement, but I am going to vote for her. And I think that's understandable. It was communicated well, but, like, there is a difference between endorsing somebody and voting for them, and an endorsement is a much, like, stronger weight to push.
Again, I think her issue here is that she just used too many words. Like, the thing is that, like, the Rolling Stone interview, in context, everything sounds fine, but I don't think she was expecting her sound bites to be the things that went viral, and I think she was not really prepared for the fact that she would have to start defending her position. And first of all, she just shouldn't have defended her position.
Yeah.
She shouldn't have explained why she's making the choices that she's making, because this is a losing game. What you're doing when you're doing that is you're fighting against the entire weight of the internet that is dying to misconstrue you. What she should have done is she should have just posted, Brat Summer, get coconut pilled, left. Like, literally, that's what she should have done.
Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, this whole situation got me just thinking about, like, what the value is and what the purpose is of celebrity political endorsements and how they function, which I do believe, like, if she doesn't feel strongly enough about Kamala to endorse her, that's a problem of the Democratic Party being bad at reaching, like, more leftist Gen Z kids, and, like, that is a problem that I feel like in my friend groups, at least, like, nobody is hype about this. Everyone's like, yeah, I guess we have to vote for her, but we're gonna do it because Trump is so much worse. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I have thoughts, but something I also learned from my political organizing days is that only about 2/3 of eligible Americans vote, and the lowest age demographic of voter turnout are Gen Z and millennials. And given how razor thin margins have been in recent elections, that means that, like, reaching undecided voters is really, really important. And celebrities have had a significant impact in that. This is the data part of the podcast. So Harvard's Ash Center for Democratic Governance and Innovation, that's a name, did a case study on celebrity involvement in elections, and they found that there is, quote, rigorous evidence that celebrity voices are incredibly powerful, end quote, in promoting civil engagement and altering poll numbers. So nonprofits reported that when celebrities do voter registration and, like, poll worker sign-up promotions, it works. Taylor Swift, which, I mean, there's a lot to say about her in terms of people could argue that she should wield her power more, but she posted a vote.org link in 2023, and that prompted 35,000 people to sign up. And when she endorsed Kamala Harris this year, 406,000 people clicked the link to register to vote that she posted in her story. Ariana Grande had voter registration booths during her tour in 2019, which led to 33,000 voter signups. Kylie Jenner shared a link to register to vote on Instagram that drove a 15,000% increase in traffic, and 80% more people registering to vote on that day than usual. And this isn't just, like, the major superstars. This is also, like, YouTubers that aren't really household names but do have a strong Gen Z following. David Dobrik, who, I don't like him, but he cooked on this one. He's
you
one
sound
of those...
like a mom trying to use Gen Z slang with the way that you said cooked there. Like, I know that you know the slang, but the phrasing... Something about the phrasing and the cadence was just extremely like somebody's millennial mother. Sorry, I'm just roasting you now.
No, you're good. I'm a month away from being 28 and a half, which is geriatric.
Oh my god. Why do you know this?
Do you not know your half birthday?
I don't pay attention to that.
I know my half birthday.
I don't.
It's November 9th. Okay, so anyway, David Dobrik, he is one of those, like, annoying YouTube bros who's, like, of the Mr. Beast ilk who just randomly gives away Teslas. So he did a contest where if you checked whether you're registered to vote or not at a certain link, then you could be entered in a raffle to win one of 5 Teslas. And over 450,000 people checked their voter registration, and 128,000 of those people also completed a voter registration application, which... that is crazy. And then 2/3 of the people that registered to vote during that initiative did end up voting.
Wow.
I've thrown a lot of numbers at you that are very just a lot of numbers, but this does really matter. Like, the margins of victory have been so small in the last few presidential elections, where in 2016, Trump won Pennsylvania, which is a big swing state, by 50,000 votes. In Michigan, which is also a big swing state, he won by around 10,000 votes. So, like, saying that David Dobrik got over 100,000 people to register to vote is, like, really, really meaningful.
Right.
That being said, I don't think celebrities owe this to us, and I think that in recent years we've kind of, like, demanded that of celebrities. But I also thought it was interesting that I was looking up, like, the history of celebrity involvement in politics. And during the Montgomery bus boycott, celebrities like Jackie Robinson, Frank Sinatra, and Aretha Franklin were vocal in their support and helped raise money and stuff. And I think that's cool. Celebrities have had sway for a long time.
I think that what this actually says about American society is that there is an absence of desire to vote outside of somebody you like for celebrity reasons telling you to vote. Do you know what I mean? Like, just like there's a lack of civic engagement. That means that some sort of other impetus, like whether it's an entertainment impetus or like now I am in a raffle to get a car, that sort of stuff makes it more likely for somebody to get over the hump of like, fuck, I need to actually check if I'm registered. Where do I have to go? Like, it's not actually that hard to vote, but I do think that if you're not part of a society that emphasizes that voting is a good thing to do, like in an organic way, then it does become kind of like there's multiple barriers to entry.
I feel like voting is like flossing for a lot of people, where like we all know that we're supposed to do it, but people don't do it as much as they should. That was a weird
No, this is right. Voting is like flossing if you were to floss once every 2 years. 2 to 4.
Yeah, and also, like, for listeners that don't live in the US, if you don't know this, in the US, you don't automatically get signed up to register to vote. Like, you have to manually do this. And I know in other countries, they're just like, oh, you're of voting age now? Congratulations, you're registered. Why does the US not do this? Voter disenfranchisement, histories of oppression, etc.
And, like, most of the people who need to register to vote are, like, young people. And, like, when you're, like, 18, you don't necessarily care about politics. You do care about Taylor Swift.
Yeah, like, try to get an 18-year-old to go to the dentist of their own accord.
Try to get an 18-year-old to floss.
I had to go to the dentist 4 times a year.
Oh my god, that's, like, a lot.
Yeah, I have so much dental anxiety that I will pay out of pocket for extra cleanings. It's terrible, but that's what I'm doing.
At least your teeth are very clean. I always get yelled at when I go.
Yeah, they're always like, you're doing amazing. And I'm like, that's because I was here 3 months ago. Anyway, another quick thing I want to bring up before we bring it back to Chappell. I just thought this was very funny. Sometimes people are like, Taylor Swift, talk more about politics. But then sometimes people are like, hey, you're a celebrity. Don't talk about politics. Just shut up and do your thing, like sing or play sports or whatever. Draymond Green, who's an NBA player, who's kind of known for being like a silly guy. Not like a silly guy, but like he's a personality. Like he is an outspoken dude. He was frustrated about people telling him to stick to basketball. And in response, he said, they say athletes can't speak on politics. Well, I find that funny because everyone thinks they can speak on basketball.
That's a good quote.
Thanks, Draymond Green. He came to Disrupt last year. There's always just like random celebrities at Disrupt, which is TechCrunch's big conference that's coming up that I go to for work. It's like you have to get the star power. So it's like, hey, that celebrity consults for a startup. Let's have him. And that's how Shaq came last year. And I made a TikTok with him, which I've definitely talked about on the podcast, but just going to mention again that I made a TikTok with Shaq.
Check that one off, the bingo board.
Yes. Unfortunately, it's not on my account. It's on Morgan's account, who was the writer who came on when we talked about Erewhon. She was our Erewhon consultant. She is Rats Over Flowers on TikTok, and that Shaq TikTok is there. We're sponsored by Morgan's TikTok. And speaking of which, we should take an ad break.
Welcome to the mid-roll, where we still haven't named it. You know, honestly, this is going to get to me. This is actually going to start getting to me, and I'm probably going to bring it up with Amanda. Anyway, my point here is that you should endorse Wow If True to one of your friends, or multiple of your friends. Maybe if you have a podcast, you should endorse Wow If True on that podcast as candidate for president. Okay, not that last bit. Just tell your friends about the podcast. That would be cool. And speaking of endorsements, today we are endorsing Join the Party. Join the Party is an actual play podcast with tangible worlds, genre-pushing storytelling, and collaborators who make each other laugh each week. I'm trying to do this in a very, like, guy who's endorsing stuff style, so hopefully this is working and is not working. DM Eric and emphatic players Amanda, Brandon, and Julia welcome everyone to the table, from longtime TTRPG players to folks who've never touched a role-playing game before. The current campaign is a pirate story, which I feel like that's, like, very much like Amanda's whole thing, because Amanda was in a pirate campaign. And it is set in a world of Plant and Bugfolk, or marathon their completed stories with the campaign, set in upstate New York, which is done doing the Monster of the Week system. Honestly, like, I've been trying to get to upstate New York this fall for, like, literally, like, weeks, trying to figure something out with that. And truly, this speaks to me because I want to go to there. Campaign 2 is a modern superhero game, and Campaign 1 is a high fantasy story. And once a month, they release the After Party, where they answer your questions about the show and how they play the game. So it's kind of cool both to learn how the games are played and also to listen to people playing them. I can definitely say, as somebody who listens to a lot of D&D podcasts, this is one of the ones that has very high production value and is very tightly edited, which is not true about all of them. So go listen to Join the Party. It is anywhere pods are cast. I shouldn't have dunked on other podcasts. That was mean of me. All games are valid.
So I think an element that I would put in the column of leave Chappell alone, maybe she should not have endorsed, is that I think that these initiatives only work when they seem authentic. And given Chappell Roan's general, like, past dismissal of the current administration, it would seem inauthentic if she was like, everybody vote for Kamala Harris. It probably would be helpful, But, like, that is an element, which in the Harvard study, the former director of headcount said that part of why David Dobrik's car thing was successful was because it was in line with what his fans expected of him, which is car giveaways.
That's a great quote.
So, like, if David Dobrik made a video that was like, hey, guys, here's why I think voting is important, that wouldn't be productive, but him being like, check your voter registration and maybe you'll win a car is.
But okay, wait, here, I think the difference here between that and Chappell's stuff is that Chappell's a new enough celebrity that people are just expecting generic celebrity shit out of her.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if she'd been around for a while and people knew that she was very much like queer, outspoken, leftist, like very, very left, they would not have been surprised by this. But because I think everyone's perception of her this year was like vaguely queer, new pop singer who just burst onto stardom, they were probably expecting stuff in the line of what Taylor Swift did or something like that.
Yeah. Which also people constantly are saying Taylor Swift needs to do more, which, like, I kind of agree. Like, I don't know.
Actually, I think Taylor's in a tough spot. Taylor has enough sway where if Taylor did more, I think people would start arguing about whether that's appropriate too. Because I think her actual influence is probably... I think what she did was right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad she endorsed. I think I was more frustrated with her before she endorsed, but I think that I might just be being harder on Taylor Swift because I am not really a fan, and I'm a fan of Chappell. I'm not, like, not a fan.
Taylor's fine.
Yeah, like, she's fine.
I think Taylor has, like, an economic and social weight to the point where if she highlighted her economic and social weight, it would start to have less economic and social weight. Do you know what I mean? Where, like,
yeah,
her endorsement would mean less if she was more aggressive about it because it would come across as, oh, she's trying to do too much and she has too much influence. That's kind of my theory. I don't know if that's true or not.
I mean, also Taylor Swift is someone that has been doing this for, like, 15 years and understands more about how to be a famous person than Chappell Roan, who's been famous for like 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, even with Taylor Swift, celebrities are constantly like not living up to fans' expectations no matter what they do. Like, you can't really do anything and have everybody agree with you. I think it's interesting how Taylor Swift caught a lot of flack for being like acquaintance friends with Brittany Mahomes, who is another like Kansas City Chiefs wife. And she is a Trump supporter, potentially. I don't think it's like 100% confirmed, but it's like, I think it is something people reasonably assume. And it's really weird to be like, Taylor Swift, I expect you to not talk to this person who you have to see once a week and like be on camera with constantly because you're both watching your boyfriend.
Your football man.
Yeah. I think it's okay if we are nice to Republicans. That's the hottest take I've ever said.
That's a quote that's gonna get pulled out of this without context, Amanda. I hope you know what you've done.
And then I'm gonna end up like Chappell Roan. I think it would be good for my image if I was a Republican apologist, because I think I'm a little too spicy for tech sometimes.
Wait, sorry, go on. Wait, you need to expand on that.
I don't know. I feel like in like 5 years, when I'm like hopefully more well-known in tech journalism than I am now, I feel like people are going to go back and be like, she has some ideas.
What does that have to do with being a Republican apologist?
I'm not a Republican apologist, but what I'm saying is I think it's okay for Taylor Swift to not be like, I'm not going to talk to you, Brittany Mahomes, because you're a Republican. I do think there's nuance to this where, like, part of why things have become so polarized is that the issues between the Democratic and Republican parties now aren't like, what do you think about tax cuts? It's like, if you're an immigrant and your friend is voting for Trump, then you're like, okay, I guess you don't think I should live here.
Actually, you know what's interesting is a lot of people who have citizenship now being like, yeah, we're voting for Trump because fuck those other guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, yeah.
Which I think is an actual key constituency that the Democratic Party does not understand.
Yeah, no, I mean, growing up in Florida, there's like a big contingent of people who came over from Cuba and then become like staunch Republicans because they're very afraid of like communism and socialism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I get it. Literally, like, okay, so my family's from Korea. My parents are like old as shit. So our family was directly affected, like every other family in Korea, by the Korean War. I have relatives who got like probably disappeared by the government.
Yikes.
One guy who's my family, old, parentheses, dead. died in prison, probably, got disappeared by the government because
Oh my
he had like communist sympathizers like shit going on. And basically, my parents' conception of what communism is directly tied with North Korea, not with what is going on here. And you can't explain it to them because it's like a more of an emotional thing than it is a facts-based thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I always find it really wild when Republicans are like, Kamala Harris is a communist, because it's like, that's just flat out not true. But to your point, like, people have emotional reactions to politics, and that's very scary for a lot of people.
Although if the Dems like did everything that the Republicans said they were doing, I'd be like, that's based. That's good, actually. Yeah. Like, oh, we sound way cooler than we actually are.
I love the commercial that says Kamala Harris is for they, them. Donald Trump is for us.
Kamala Harris understands pronouns. Donald Trump for illiteracy.
Donald Trump cannot use the singular they in a sentence, and it's kind of appalling. He just doesn't get how to conjugate the pronoun.
But I guess kind of going back to that, it's like speaking of like what would be good for your brand in the future. Sorry, I'm just giving you shit for this, and I'm saying this and like my parents are like Republican, but
I mean, I am joking, to be clear.
Yeah, I know you're joking, but it's like I feel slightly mean on account of sometimes I feel like I'm being slightly mean when I'm making a joke. Anyway, my point is a couple of questions. First, when do you think Wow If True has to start endorsing candidates? I think us endorsing anybody right now, this means nothing. This is nothing.
You know what, Isabel, do you feel good about Wow If True endorsing Kamala Harris?
It's like fine.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I would do it if it felt helpful. Like, I don't know that I like Kamala Harris enough to endorse her, but I am going to tell everybody to vote for her. So, like, in a similar way to Chappell's position, I have a similar feeling. But it's like, I'm more practical. So I'm like, if Wow If True was like, if we were as big as Joe Rogan or some shit like that, if we were the Hawk Tuah podcast.
Oh my god, the Hawk Tuah podcast.
I would be endorsing Kamala Harris because I am a pragmatist and I think that, like, my personal feelings matter less than, like, let's just get people to vote. Let's just tell people to vote.
Yeah, I guess if I were a celebrity, I think I'd come at this from a different angle as someone who, like, has worked in politics and, like, I'm a lib, you know? Not really, but, like, I always feel like I feel like my friends are like, when we're voting, we're sending a signal that we approve the people. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I think you just gotta get out there and do the thing. And then, like, I have been very disappointed with Biden's administration, as I knew was gonna happen. I did not vote for him in the primaries. He was not my first, second, or third choice.
But it's better than Trump. It's better than the Republicans. You're voting against bad things happening. You're not voting for good things happening. Which sucks to say, but it's true.
I also am frustrated that I have never been able to vote for a presidential candidate in my lifetime that I'm like, I am really excited about this person. But, like, I'm happy to settle for, I don't think Kamala Harris is going to cause immense strife for all marginalized people in America.
Either way, you're voting for the war machine to continue being in power. Would you like a slightly less shitty war machine? And the answer is, unfortunately, I would like the slightly less shitty war machine. Also, just putting this out there, you should vote for the Democratic Party because a bunch of Supreme Court seats are probably going to be up because people are going to die.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah, I also feel like that's something that people discount, is that voting for president is not just voting for Kamala Harris, it's voting for who is running the labor relations board that oversees, like, labor violations in America. Who's running the FTC? Like, are they going to be sympathetic to consumers, or are they going to be sympathetic to Jeff Bezos?
Right, like, you're voting for a whole, essentially, suite of positions by voting for the president. And also, like, one of the things that you can't discount here, especially since Trump is the nominee for the Republican Party again, is the fact that he's just incompetent, and then if positions don't get filled, if budgets don't get approved, if XYZ things don't happen, then a lot of stuff will just get stopped in its tracks within the machinery of government that, like, is not actually partisan. It's just, like, things, like, you gotta have guys who work for this agency, but now we can't hire those guys. Like, literally shit like that.
Anyway, so I think that on behalf of Wow If True, I think we are endorsing, quote, slightly less shitty war machine.
Yeah. Okay, but the follow-up question here is that when do you think with your personal brand you would start endorsing stuff?
I don't know. I think you have to be, like, pretty famous to have a sway.
Mm-hmm. That's how I feel too, because I was thinking about this in terms of, like, let's say I'm just some guy who writes books. I don't think me endorsing anyone makes any sense. I don't even think me posting on social media, vote for X candidate, makes sense. Like, not even as an endorsement, just in like a, hey, go vote. But if I got to like Hank Green status, Hank and John Green, then I feel like what I would want to do is I would want to post, hey, go register to vote. And you guys should vote, and here's what voting does. More than like saying yes or no to a particular candidate, because even then I don't feel like my endorsement really changes things. But I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know.
Right, because then if I'm like JKR famous, then maybe I say like what candidate I endorse, because that's like actual fame.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I probably will post at some point like, hey, I'm gonna vote for Kamala, go vote. But, like, that's as far as I would go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna be out here, like, yes, queen, for the next, like, month. And, oh my god, it's a month away. Oh, god.
It's less than a month when this episode comes out.
Yeah, I don't know. My general stance on electoral politics is voting is good because you can get the person in office who has a slightly better chance of doing the right thing. And once those people are in office, give them hell.
Can I bring up a variant of this topic in a more controversial way? Which is, when should celebrities shut up about their bad views?
Well, I mean, this is where bias comes in, where, like, if Taylor Swift endorsed Donald Trump, I'd be like, go home, Taylor. But since she endorsed the candidate that I think is the superior candidate, I'm like, yeah, you know, Taylor Swift using her influence, good for her.
Yeah, see, so that's the thing, is that we're being very biased here because we have a very specific view of the world.
But then again, at the same time, like, I still don't think Chappell Roan should have endorsed a candidate.
I guess this is a larger point, but do you think celebrities or people on the internet who have some sort of fame have a duty to tell you about their potentially controversial views? The reason I'm bringing this up is because there was a big TERF thing that happened in science fiction the other week. And you writing about this and us talking about it reminded me of kind of like the opposite situation, where completely unrelated, other than like being perhaps the dark mirror of what we're talking about, is E. Lily Yu is a science fiction author who is pretty well known within like science fiction fantasy, like very literary science fiction and fantasy. Stuff that wins awards and stuff that gets like reprinted places. She kind of positions herself as someone who is like very academic. I have not really read a bunch of her work. Recently, last week, she posted a Substack article that was both A, extremely condescending, B, kind of poorly written, which was a very big surprise for me because I thought she was good at stuff. And 3, extremely, like, guy who is a TERF but doesn't want to say it. Guy who doesn't like trans people but, like, wants to be, like... It was a sort of, like, TERF article where they're like, I'm taking a stand and everyone's gonna hate me for this, but I have to speak the truth.
Oh my
Here's
God.
the truth. And then obviously everyone's like, wow, where the fuck did this come from? And then a bunch of authors that I know and a bunch of people in the community started posting, like, pro-trans stuff, which, hell yeah, we love this. But then I started thinking about, like, what is the point of everybody posting this stuff? Does this just make her original point have more reach?
Maybe.
Yeah, she's famous within a specific group of people, but she's not, like, famous, you know? So it's very much like...
Yeah, like, I've never heard of this person.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't make a post. Posting is always a mistake, but I did re-skeet. I hate saying that. I did re-skeet somebody else's, someone I'm friends with, like, list of, here's a bunch of trans authors, post your stories. Because I was like, all right, that's good. That's giving people reading material.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that it made sense for someone like Chappell Roan potentially to endorse because she is someone who her music is political. Like, her whole thing is political. Whereas I think part of why some people argue Taylor Swift should stay out of it is that her music, like, is not political. Like, her whole thing, like, I don't know, she cares about, like, feminism, but in a very, like, white feminism way. I could be wrong. I don't know all the things about her, but I think that expecting celebrities that are already politically outspoken to make statements is not unheard of. But I don't think that we should fault celebrities when they don't feel enthusiastic or comfortable about endorsing somebody.
Right, but I'm talking about, like, the opposite situation, which is that, like, if somebody has shitty views, would you rather that they voice them or not voice them? Because I think it's an interesting question in the sense of, if someone voices their shitty opinion, it gets magnified, and if they're a celebrity, then that maybe makes other people feel like they should have this opinion. But on the other hand, it's good to know what people are.
I think it sort of is just, it is what it is. Like, if an author that I love comes out with very harmful views that I strongly disagree with, cough, cough, J.K. Rowling, Like, I don't know. I personally don't feel comfortable buying anything that would give her money since she's donating money to actively transphobic movements. But also, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I gave you kind of an impossible question there. I've been thinking about it a lot, though.
It's sort of like Schrodinger's bad takes. J.K. Rowling in particular is a really interesting case study because while the books were coming out, she was, like, notoriously, like, reticent. She barely spoke in public. She didn't do many interviews. Like, people would ask her questions out the book, and she just, like, I don't know. She wasn't very, like, in the press. She was famous, but she wasn't, like, talking about politics and stuff. And now...
Her posts are bad. Her posts are simply bad.
Yeah, so it's like, she used to not say anything, and we lived in ignorance, and now she says stuff, and it's like, damn, this person that inspired me to write as a child is now the enemy, and, you know, I've gotten over it. I care more about trans people being safe than, oh no, I liked a book when I was a kid. But, like, it is disappointing still, but also, I don't know what would happen if she never did that. Then we just sort of wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But also, she wouldn't be amplifying the bad viewpoints.
My feeling is it's probably better to know, but it sucks that they have a platform to espouse these viewpoints. In conclusion, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, I think that everybody should log off. Like, especially with the endorsements thing, because I think the main problem here is that we have a system that relies on, to some extent, endorsements from celebrities. And maybe everyone should just get registered when you're 18 automatically, and this would actually solve, like, many problems.
Maybe. Or even, like, same-day voter registration is not a thing in a lot of states.
It's fine. I mean, it's not fine. Go vote.
Yeah, I don't know. Leave Chappell alone.
Chappell should get a new PR team. Sorry, I think my two things here are, like, Chappell should get a new PR team. Chappell should stop posting. Nobody should be posting. Let's fix the American voting system, and maybe we don't need this episode in the future.
And Wow If True endorses candidate who is less bad.
Wow If True endorses go check if you're registered to vote and do your best. Thumbs up.
Wow If True endorses voter fraud.
No, don't say that.
I don't. That's a joke.
This podcast is over. We're done with the podcast.